So, as we have discussed about where the foundation object at the initial starting of the employee center, so we have covered all the foundation objects. So, among the other foundation objects, we have SAP has categorized some of the objects under other foundation that includes the workflow, event driven, and dynamic role. Okay, these are also a part of foundation object. So if we want to go and create a workflow, if you want to go and create a event driven or a dynamic role, we need to go into the configuration tool, that is manage org page job and structure. Okay, so that is one thing. But what is a workflow? What is the feature of the workflow? So before going into the workflow, we need to understand the process of the organization. So every organization, when the end user from the organization side, when they are making some changes in the employee profile, those changes, uh, sorry, after making the changes, generally they will go and save those changes in the system. But if the management from the organization side, they don't want the changes should be saved automatically, it has to send a notification to the reporting manager or to the HR admin, whoever are the responsible approvers. And after receiving the notification, those approvers need to validate those changes. And then after that, once they are approving it, they have the authority that they can approve it or they can decline it. Okay, if again, if any changes is required, they can decline it and send it back to the initiator. So that type of a mechanism where an approver can able to approve the changes or they can able to decline it. If they are approving it, that will be, or the system will automatically take that accept that approved request, and the changes will be automatically updated in the system. Okay, this type of a mechanism we have in various organizations where they want to have this sort of process where an end user, maybe an employee or maybe a manager, when they make some changes in the employee profile, it should not save automatically, but it should send a notification for the approver for approving that changes. Okay, and this process, what SAP has done, the SAP has created a feature. That feature is called as a workflow, and with the help of the workflow, this process can be mapped with this workflow feature. And whenever a changes is being done in the employee profile by any specific role, any role, either an employee or a manager or a matrix manager or a manager's manager, that will send a notification for the approval with the help of this feature. Okay, so that is the purpose of coming up with this feature, that is called as a workflow. Okay, and when they introduced this workflow, they decided that to keep this workflow of the feature under the foundation object. So when the object is coming under the foundation object, for creating that record for that object, we will be using the manage org job pay and structure. Okay, so let me go and share my Excel again to go and see some part of the theoretical concept here. Then we go into the system. So generally, to summarize, let me go into my Excel first of all. Okay, so to go ahead, we can able to say that workflow is something, a feature which will help us to send a approval request, whatever the change or whatever the action is performed in the system, and according to that action, a change has been occurred, and that change will trigger the workflow, and a notification will be sent to the approvers. Okay, so for that, we should have this workflow. So workflow is a foundation object. So to configure a workflow, we need to define the following aspects. So we need to have the list of approvers. Then we should have the triggering of the workflow. Okay, so triggering of the workflow, then the notification has to be sent to the approver. Okay, for the process of implementing and configuring the workflow and the notification, these are the areas which we are focusing on. So this, it specifies that first we have to set up a workflow. Okay, after setting up a workflow means, in the setting up of the workflow there should be, we will go and see how to set up a workflow, but in a high level overview we are going and seeing setting up the workflow, defining the rules to trigger the workflow. So when you set up a workflow, to trigger the workflow there should be some rules. Okay, defining the rules, and there will be some features which we need to configure for the workflow, and to get the workflow notification we need to assign that particular workflow rules to the correct area, so that the workflow notification should be sent to the approvers. Okay, so when the workflow notification will be sent to the approvers, how the notification will be sent? So for sending the notification, so when we receive the notification, generally uh, we will receive the notification in two ways, either into the SuccessFactors system and also into the email. Okay, so managing the workflow requires, so for managing the workflow also, in the home page we require these tiles. In the to do section we should have the tiles. What are the tiles we should have? One is the approval request, and one is the take action. Okay, approval request specifies user can access the workflow request. Take action, user can review the alert, whatever is the alert which will be receiving, that alert which will be updating in the take action tile. Okay, so these two tiles should be there in the to do section in the home page of the employee. Okay, to make sure the workflow work as expected and notification are sent successfully, for that also we should have the email settings. Okay, to have the proper email setting, what is happening, workflow and alert notifications are sent to the employees through the email. Okay, it will get the notification in the to do tile also, as well as in the email also. To get it into the email, we should maintain the proper email information. Where we will maintain the proper email information? When we are creating the user, we have seen four methods: UDF, add new employee, six basic files, and also we have seen from the provisioning. So when we are maintaining the employee data, in that we should have to maintain the valid email addresses. Then only the notification will be received in the email. Okay, that is one thing. Now, coming into further, workflow screen is divided into three parts. Now we are discussing about the workflow. Workflow is a foundation of it. When you are going and creating the workflow from the manage org job pay structure, it is divided into three parts. What are the three parts which is been divided into? Approver, contributor, and the CC role. Okay, so the workflow screen is divided into three parts, that is the approver, contributor, and the CC role. Okay, so let me go and show you in the system parallelly so that you will have a clarity for that. So let me go into manage org job pay structure. Okay, so I will go to manage org job pay structure. Okay, okay, So when I go into workflow, you can see workflow here. Select the workflow. Let's take some workflow here. Address change. Okay. So let me go into this, and you can see here the workflow screen is divided into three parts. One is approver. This is the approver section. That is, this is step 1, step 2, step 3. These are the approver section. Then we have a contributor, and then we have a CC role. These are the three sections which the workflow is divided. So when you go into the approver section, maximum you can see step 1, step 2, step 3, maximum 6 steps we can able to go and create the what you call level of approvers. Okay, so step 1 will be somebody else, HR or somebody. Step 2 will be a manager. Step 3 will be manager's manager. Like that, maximum we can go up to 6 levels of approvers. So that only it is specifying here. We can go up to maximum 6 levels of approvers in the workflow. Okay. Now coming into the approver. What is an approver section? Okay. What is the basic understanding of the approver? Approver section, it defines that they approve the workflow, send back the workflow, post a comment for the workflow, or it can reject the workflow also. If an admin has enabled relevant features, they can also assign the workflow request to themselves or delegate the workflow also. Okay, so all these things will be carried in the approver section. So what is the approver section? This step 1 to till step 3, or maybe if we have step 6 also. So altogether step 1 to step 6 comprise of the approver section. Okay, now what is a contributor section? Okay, what is a contributor? So when you go into the contributor, so what is a contributor section says? It can provide the comment. They can provide who? The contributor, whoever is there under the contributor, they can provide the comment that can help the approver to make a decision. Contributors are also notified about the progress or the changes during the entire workflow. So whatever is the development which is going on for each workflow, and whatever the changes which is being done, that is also getting notified to the contributor also. Contributor can also post a comment to the approver if it will help us the approver to make a decision. Okay, that all comes under the contributor. What is the CC role? CC role, they are only notified when the workflow is completed. So when in the approver section you have a step 1, step 2, step 3. If all the steps the approvers approves the workflow, then the final notification in the CC role will be sent that the workflow is being completed. So CC role is a section where whoever is been nominating as a CC role, they will be only getting an update. They cannot able to send a communication. They cannot be a part of an approval process. Okay, they will be only as an audience will be getting an update about this workflow is being completed finally. Okay, that is the part which will be coming under CC role. Even whoever we are selecting as a CC role, for them also they will be getting a final notification in the email also, and they can get the update in the home page also. Okay, so this is the basic difference between the approver, contributor and the CC role, where workflow screen is divided into three parts. Okay, any questions here before going into the first part, that is the approver?
No, good. We earned it.
Okay. Okay, so let me go parallelly and show you. So when you go into the approver section, so in the approver section we have a approver type. Let me go and show you here. In the approver section we have a approver type. Okay, so in the approver type you can see here we have role, dynamic group, position and position relationship. Okay, so when you are selecting the role here, suppose we are configuring a workflow, so approver type we are selecting as a role. Okay, so what are the roles which are there? Okay, that roles will be coming under the approval role. So when you go and select here, you can see self manager, managers manager, employee HR, matrix manager, custom manager, and second manager, and we also have additional manager. All these are the standard roles. What do you mean by the standard roles? These are the default role which is already there in SuccessFactors, which is already defined by SAP. Okay, so we don't have to do any creation of new role, because these are the standard role which will be showing if you are selecting the role as an approver type, where it will come as approver role, the entire list will be there. So what exactly is the role? To understand the role, uh, the system determines the participants by the reporting line. So when we are going and creating a user, we specify, okay, what is the role for that particular user. Okay, so that only, when we are selecting the approver type as a role, system will automatically determine that the participant by the reporting line, they can be an employee themselves, or their managers, matrix managers, or the HR representatives. Okay, that is coming under the role which we have seen right now. Okay, so these are the standard roles. So now we are selecting here, and I am selecting as a manager means, suppose I am selecting here as a manager means, it means that when the notification will be, when the workflow will be triggered, the first level, the notification will be sent to the manager. Okay, because we have selected the approver type as a role, so it will be sent to the manager. Okay, so system never uh, distinguish between that the manager is HR manager or finance manager or a sales manager. It will only specify that the system will only determine that the role as a manager, and the notification will be sent to the manager. When the notification is sent to the manager, that manager uh, will be determined when you are going for a hiring, and when you are mapping that manager to that employee. So according to that, the notification will be sent. Okay, that is one thing. Now coming into the second one, that is, let's go and take dynamic role we will take, but let's discuss about the this one, dynamic group. Okay, so let me go back here into the system, and in case if I am selecting the approver type as a dynamic group, okay, so when I am selecting this as a dynamic group, we can see by default there are certain dynamic groups which is already showing here. Okay, payroll, okay, HR department, finance department, all these other dynamic groups which is showing here. Okay, so from where these dynamic groups are coming? So to understand from where these dynamic groups are coming, for that we will duplicate a screen, and there is a configuration tool through which the dynamic groups are defined. So what is that configuration tool which is been there? So the configuration tool is manage workflow group. Okay, manage workflow group. So when we go here, and when we try to type manage workflow group, okay, manage workflow group. So when you are going into the manage workflow group, we can see here the HR, HRBP, okay, detail, all these things which are showing here, that is being created under the dynamic group. So what is the dynamic group specifies? A dynamic group, the participants in the dynamic, the participants are a group of users. Okay, so in the dynamic group, we can able to go and create a group of users. Okay, so if I want to see here where the dynamic group is being selected as a HRBP approver. So what is the HRBP approver here? So when I will type here HRBP, and when I go and enter, you can see HRBP approver. Okay, how many people are there in here? Only one user is there. Okay, suppose if I am taking another dynamic group, let me take something else. Let me scroll down. Let me take talent approver. Okay, I'm taking talent approval as a dynamic group. So who all members are there in the talent approval? So let me go and type here talent. You can see talent approval. How many members are there? Two members are there. Okay, how this group is being created? When you click on create new group, this looks like an RBP setup, right? Where you specify the name of the group and we can add the members from the by filtering the members in terms of these criteria. Okay, on the basis of the employee class, on the basis of the department, on the basis of the job code. Okay, on the basis of the username. Okay, on these criteria we can add the members, and after adding the members, once you click on it, those members will be reflecting here. So somebody has created this, you can see, has a group named talent approver, and how many members are there? Two members are there. In the future, if you want to add one more member, click on here, you can click add another, and you can able to add the member. Okay, that is one thing. So whatever the dynamic groups are there, the dynamic groups are defined from where it is defined, from manage workflow group. From manage workflow group, we can able to see all the dynamic groups. Okay, and in each dynamic group there will be some members will be there. Okay, so when we are selecting here in the workflow the approver type as a dynamic group, and we are selecting the relevant dynamic group from here, from the list here, from where it is coming, from the manage workflow group, which is already configured. Okay, and here it is the place where we are configuring the number of employees or the number of members in that particular group. So when we are selecting the approver role as a dynamic group, okay, and this dynamic group may be having two members. So when the notification will be triggered, when the workflow triggers and a notification will be sent, the notification will be sent simultaneously to both the members at a time. Okay, but it is not necessary that both the members has to approve it. Any one of the member can able to approve it, and they can able to proceed further. Okay, then what will happen? It will once the notification is approved by one of the member, it will be sent to the next level, that is the level 2. Okay, so it is not necessary that all the members in that group need to go and approve it. Okay, got it? That is the behavior of the dynamic group. Got it?
Yeah.
That is
I
about the dynamic group. So yeah,
I was about to ask the
any
question that
question?
is like all approvers should approve or anyone is okay.
No,
But
no,
you,
no, no. Notification they will be receiving at a time, but anyone can able to go and approve it.
yeah,
Okay. Yeah, so that is one thing. Then coming into the another behavior, that is of dynamic role. So we have seen role, we have seen dynamic group, now we are seeing dynamic role. So when we are selecting the dynamic role, okay, so here also we can see lot of dynamic roles are populating. From where it is coming, I told in the other foundation we have workflow, event driven, and dynamic role as a foundation object. Okay, so all these drop down results which are coming from the manage object pay structure. Okay, so when I duplicate the screen and when I select here the dynamic role, when I select here the dynamic role, we can see all the list will be coming from here. Okay, the business unit head, chief people officer, compensation, you can see here the same thing, business unit head, chief people officer, compensation, all things will be coming from here. Suppose if I am taking randomly as a comp manager, okay, as a dynamic role, so workflow will be triggered, a notification will be sent to the dynamic role to understand who are the dynamic role. Okay, first of all, what is a dynamic role? For that I just specified here. So the participants are generally dynamically determined according to the event reasons. for a data change or certain foundation object subject users. So to understand who are the dynamic roles, for that what we need to do, we have to go here and suppose we are selecting that particular dynamic role, how it is been configured. Okay, so I will go here and I will click on make correction. So here we can see here the dynamic assignments are there, dynamic role assignments. We can see here the dynamic role assignment. So under that we have various columns are there. Okay, job classification, department, division, location. So these are not mandatory fields. Okay, we can able to, if it is required, we can able to keep it blank. Okay, but we can see legal entity, although it is not a mandatory field, but generally we can see in the customer system they have defined various legal entities. Okay, a single company can have been located in France, Belgium, Australia, and Singapore, four different countries. So four different entities are there. Okay, and four different entities, they have their uh, different headcounts in different locations. Okay, so that they can able to configure in the legal entity section column. But further, when we go towards the right, although these are not mandatory fields, we have a approver type. Again under the this one, what you call dynamic role, we have again one more option is there, that is approver type. Okay, and this approver type, we can see it is a mandatory field. Okay, it is a mandatory part. Okay, so when you go into the approver type again, it is divided into three parts. Okay, under dynamic role. So when a dynamic role is being configured, so now a comp dynamic compensation manager is a dynamic role. Okay, generally what is a dynamic role? um, Dynamic role generally specifies where all the users are categorized under a same object, same foundation object, that is their position, department, pay grade, event reason. When they are all coming under same segment, then we are going and creating a dynamic role. Okay, so here we have created a, here we can see a dynamic role is created by name compensation manager. So when the compensation manager, the workflow will be triggered, it depends upon the approver type. Okay, which in the dynamic role, what is the approver type? Suppose the approver type is selected as a person, means that person, individual person, will act as a compensation manager. If we are selecting under the dynamic role as a dynamic group, and under the dynamic group we are going and selecting a dynamic group where we have two members are there, so both the two members will act as a dynamic role. Okay, because under the dynamic role we have defined the approver type as a dynamic group, so both the members under the dynamic group will act as a dynamic role. So it means that when a notification will be triggered to a dynamic role, it will be sent simultaneously to both the users in the in the dynamic role, but any of the user can able to approve it. That is the behavior of the dynamic. Okay, if it is selected as a position, so position means whichever is the position which is been nominated, therefore that particular position, then once the workflow will trigger, the notification will be sent to the dynamic role, and that position will act as a dynamic role, and the notification will be sent to that particular position. Okay, so dynamic role depends upon the approver types, and the approver types, we have the person, the dynamic group, and the position. Okay, got it? So that is when we are selecting here as a approver type as a dynamic role, and the dynamic role is being configured from the manage org job pay structure. And when we are configuring the dynamic role, it depends upon the under the dynamic role what is the approver type which is been selected. According to that, the notification will be sent. Okay, that is one thing.
Um,
Then we, yeah,
I
tell me. Please go
question.
ahead.
In dynamic role, so we also have the dynamic group, right? And
Yeah.
here also we have dynamic group. I mean, in the approach, right? So, are these the same thing?
Yeah, this is the same thing, but here we can specify the approver type here directly. There, why we are specifying under the dynamic role, because we you can see various legal entities are there. Under various legal entities, you can see country specific legal entities you can see. So according to the country specific legal entities, they can able to define it. So when you go here, you can see Western UK, Germany, France, Brazil, and everything are there. Okay. So when you go into the approver type, so when you go here, you can see approver type. Some will be person, some will be position, some will be dynamic group, depending upon the country wise. So for a
So,
particular country in the dynamic role, see dynamic roles are nothing but a specific role. If you want to keep the type of approval in that who is being designated under the same role. Suppose two users are there who are being designated under the same role and who can be a part of a dynamic role. So in that case, we can able to go under the dynamic role, we can go and create a dynamic group. And in the dynamic group, we can keep both the users under that dynamic group, which will act as a dynamic role. Suppose for a payroll or for a compensation specialist for a particular country, and that country we have two users who are being designated as the same level. So they are, so they have the authority to go and go ahead and do the approval process. So that is the reason they can be kept under a single group, and
okay,
that single group can act as a dynamic group.
okay, yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
so outside externally, this is the same dynamic group which you are seeing here also. There is
Mm,
nothing different. Okay, but we need to understand how the approver type, the designing of the approver type is being done, and what is the purpose.
okay,
Okay, so now when we are designing a dynamic role, I am specifying dynamic role as a compensation manager. So compensation manager is a dynamic role, but it can vary from country to country also, right? For
yes,
France, it can be a single person, right? For Belgium, it can be a particular position. Okay. For Germany, it can be a dynamic group where two users they are adding into that particular group. So that is the reason SAP has designed the layout for the dynamic role in this way that the under the approver type they have kept person, dynamic group, and the position.
okay,
Okay. So when we are configuring as an developer or as an implementation consultant, we should have a clarity from the customer that if you want to have this dynamic role, these are the by default options are there, where while defining the dynamic role, what option we need to take? We need to take as a person or as a dynamic group or as a position.
okay,
Okay. Okay. Got it. That is the logic behind it.
okay,
Okay. And then comes the position and the position relationship. So that is not major because position, we know the position is already been created in the managed data. That position is an MDF object, so we are creating the position. So those positions, if you are selecting the position here, those positions will be populating here. Okay, so position relationship also has some least importance, but we are more focusing on role, dynamic group, and dynamic role and the dynamic group. These are the three areas which will be more focusing, because we can see these areas frequently in the customer system where we can see the workflow which is already been configured. We can see these are the frequent areas: role, dynamic role, and the dynamic group. Okay, fine. So further going ahead, let's go. So dynamic group, approver type and approver role. Is it clear? Any questions?
Yeah, it's clear.
Okay, so for creating a workflow, we will be going into this what you call manage org job pay structure, and then we'll be starting up. Before going into the, we have seen it is divided into three parts. That is the approver, then we have a contributor, and then we have a CC role. Okay, so approver, we just started with the approver type and the approver role. Let me also cover up this topic also, that is when we are going and creating, we have to specify the workflow ID, the name and the description. Okay, then comes the remaining day. So you can see here, apart from the workflow ID, all are not non-mandatory fields. Okay, but what is the purpose of this field, that also we need to understand. Okay, now if we have a customer criteria which we need to have remaining days, so why we need to take remaining days? It generally specifies after how many days of lapse period uh, the approval has to be uh, reminded to act on a workflow. Suppose a workflow is being triggered. Okay, so and we have mentioned here as number of days as 2 days. Okay, so for example, we entered as a 2. So what it means, so if approvers haven't responded the workflow approval, this is the approver. So approver received the notification and the approver haven't responded the workflow request. After 2 days, what will happen? The system will send a reminder. Okay, if approver do nothing or or respond by giving some comment or something, again the second reminder will be sent after 2 days later. Okay, so that is the process where we are going into the, when we are taking the remind in days. Okay, and if still if the approval is not responding, then we have this relationship to the approval, that skip the step or to stop the workflow options will be there, that we will be seeing right now, this option. Okay, but the purpose of remaining day specifies that after workflow is being triggered, after how many days a notification, system generated notification has to be sent to the approver, that specifies the number of days here. Okay, then is delegate supported? Okay, is delegate supported means you have a yes or no. So it specifies whether the approval can, whoever is the approver can delegate that workflow to someone else. We have seen with the help of a proxy management in the introduction to mastery, right? How they can able to delegate or assign a new proxy user, right? That is the same which is referring here. Okay, then comes with the alternate workflow. What is generally the alternate workflow? So, alternate workflow will be triggered. Uh, alternate workflow will be triggered when you are selecting an alternate workflow. That alternate workflow will trigger when it has a future date. It has that particular action as a future date. Okay, to understand it, to have a more clarity, let's take an example where the we have an employee, and the employee job information record has two records. Okay, one record is something between, let's take one record is something from we have one record from first first January to 1st January 2023 to December 31st December 2023. That is one record, and after that the another record is from 1st January 2024 onwards. That is the another record which is been showing. Okay, two records are there. So the what is the future record here? Future record is the 1st January 2024 in the job information for employee. Okay, so if there is an alternate workflow, okay, so if there is alternate, if we have assigned an alternate workflow, and it will trigger only when the employee's job information is changed. If we are changing the employee's job information and a new record with an effective date, effective start date will be created, that is before January 2024. If we are taking, if we are creating another record before January 2024 is the future record, right? Before the future record, a alternate record is being created in the employee's job information, then in that case the alternate workflow will trigger. Got it? If if we are going and creating the record which is after 1st of January 2024, means after the future record, then this original workflow will trigger. Okay, the original workflow will trigger because there is no future record at that time. Okay, got it? So that is the understanding of the original workflow with the alternate workflow. Okay, although it is not a mandatory field, but if the customer comes up with a scenario, we need to understand the logic behind it, how it works on. Is it clear?
Yes.
Okay, then again we have the escalation, so we can assign the workflow to an escalation path that we would have created. So this is also, we can able to ignore it, that is also least important. And then we have also seen the here the approver type and the approver role that we have already discussed right now. Further, when you go into the context, context is applicable when it is an approver, when it is a dynamic role or it is a role. So when you are selecting something as a role here, it will get activate, or when we are selecting something as a dynamic role. In both the cases, context will be there. Okay, so context, what is a context? It determines the approver based on the attributes of the um, attributes of the that particular subject employee, or on a data before or after the change. So to explain it, let's take when an employee's position is getting changed. Okay, the workflow may require an approval from the manager. Okay, employee's position, there is action is performed, employee's position is getting changed, and for that approval is required from the manager of the employee. Okay, so by specifying this option, that is context, we can determine which manager has to approve the request. So here there are two options, a source and the target. Okay, so the source is something where the manager before the change happened, that is considered as the manager. Okay, the new manager is the new manager after the change, that is called, that is coming under the target. Okay, so generally when you go into a real-time system, we can see the context, they will always keep the context as a source with the manager before the change. Okay, understood the concept here for the context?
So it's something like for right now, current source would be our current manager and target would be like future manager, something.
We can say, yeah, we can say that. Okay, that also depends upon the change. Now you are performing a change, but the when the change is being performed, who is the manager before that change? Okay, that manager will act as a source.
Source, yeah, okay.
Okay,
Yeah,
when the change has been performed, after the change, who is the manager? That will consider as a target manager.
yeah.
Okay, that is the understanding. Although here also you can see only two tabs are there which are mandatory, but we always, as a consultant, we need to understand all the tabs, what is the importance of it. Okay, and this is the same thing which is also mentioned in the implementation guide also. So during the implementation, we will refer those implementation document which will help us. Okay, then comes with the edit transaction. So in the edit transaction, we have the option that is no edit, edit with root change, and edit without root change, and edit attachment. So no edit generally specifies that when the workflow is being triggered and notification will be sent to this approver, the approver don't have any option to edit it. Okay, you only have the option either to approve it or to reject it. Okay, so if you are configuring something, the edit transaction as a no edit, that approver, whoever is the approver in that level, don't have the option to go and edit and modify it if they want to do any correction. Okay, now assuming that in the step 2 we have the edit transaction as this one, edit with root change. Okay, and here let's take, I'm taking something here as attachment only. Okay, these are something with the scenario which we are looking up. So no edit means he will be receiving the notification, but when he receives the notification, he can only go and either approve it or we can decline it. He can uh, reject that request, so the request will be sent back to the originator. Okay, now we have a edit with root change in the second step. So if he is approved it, it will go to the second step. Okay, the workflow will be sent to the second step to the new approver, whoever is the approver in that level. So edit with root change means what? So edit with root change specifies that here they have an option to edit. Okay, so here in this second step, the whoever is the approver, that approver observes that uh, there was some postal code or the pin code which was mentioned wrongly while doing the correction, and that has not been identified in the first level. In the second level, they have, the manager has observed it. So when the manager want to do the correction, they have a edit option. Okay, so manager can able to go and do the correction from their end, and they can able to submit it. So once the manager will submit it, as it is a edit with root change, so it will not go to the another step. It will validate the entire workflow by going into the previous step. Okay, so whatever is the previous step, it will be, the notification will be sent to the previous step, and it will, the workflow will be validated, and then the flow will be coming from the previous step to this step and to the future step, next step. That's the meaning of edit with root change. Okay, if we are going with a same thing, if you are going with edit without root change, another scenario. So the manager will do the correction here, do all the correction by updating the record, and once he submit it, it is without root change, so it will not go to the previous step, it will go to the next step. Okay, that is the difference between the edit with root change and edit without root change. And in a real time, we can see, mostly you can see the edit without root change, edit with root change, these are something which they can see the implementation team would have done it. Okay, then edit attachment is something where he has an option to edit it, but simultaneously he has an attachment link also, so he can attach the document, that is the supporting document also he can able to attach it. Okay, got it?
Yes.
Okay, then we have no approval behavior. So this I already discussed above in the remind days. So where we have this skip the step or the stop the workflow. So according to that, this whatever setup which we have done, if after two reminders, if there is no behavior from the approval, whatever is the option which we have chosen, according to that, that will act on it. Okay, so here also in the real time we can see generally it goes with either with the skip this step or the stop the workflow. Okay, then we have something as a relationship to the approver. So let me go here. So when I'm going here, relationship to the approver. Relationship to the approver, we have employee and the initiator. Okay. It generally it specifies whether the approver is determined based on the workflow's subject user, that is an employee, or the workflow initiator. Okay. So according to that, it specifies the relationship to the approver. Got it? So, for example, if suppose you are the subject user, means you are an employee, and I am the initiator. I am making some changes to your profile, and it will be sent to the approver. Okay. So, what is the relationship between you and the approver? That is, you as a subject user employee, and approver is the manager for you. But if if I am the initiator, if I am only making the changes for my data, then what is the relation between? So in that case, I will be act as an initiator, and the relation is between the initiator and the manager. Okay. So here also we can see by default it will be showing the as a relationship to the approver as employee only. Okay. Then comes with the respect to the permission. When it comes to the respect to the permission, generally it specifies the permissions of the participant to view the workflow fields. Okay. So whatever is the permission for the participant to view the workflow fields. So if it is specified as yes, if it is specified as yes means what? The workflow participants, whoever are the participants are there in the workflow, can view only the fields which they have the permission. Okay. So in the RBP, whatever is the permission which is being granted to them, they can only see those fields only. If you are selecting the report permission as yes, if you are selecting as no means what? Workflow participants can view all the fields regardless of the assigned RBP permissions. Okay, that is the meaning of taking permission as respect permission as yes or no. Okay, is it clear?
Yes.
Then we have workflow email configuration. So when we come into the workflow email configuration, it determines or it specifies a predefined workflow email configuration, a workflow email notification which will be sent to the approver. Okay. So if we are keeping the workflow email configuration here as a blank, what will happen? SAP has a standard template, email notification template. So that email notification template will be sent to the approver. Okay, that the workflow has been, a request has been initiated, it requests your approval. That standard template will be there, that will be sent to the approver if you are not selecting anything from here. But if you are selecting anything from here, okay, from the drop down list, then what will happen? Whatever is the custom workflow email notification which the customer has configured or which the implementation partner has configured, that template will be sent to the approver. Okay. So for example, the same requirement we were having 1 year back, where customer has came up with a request that whenever an employee is getting terminated, manager will get a notification. In the workflow, manager will be getting a notification to approve that workflow. So manager will approve it. But when manager will approve it, manager also has some key activities which has to be performed as a part of termination. But what happens? Manager generally skips or generally forgets those activities, and that is also getting affected during the offboarding process. So to avoid that, to maintain the process, what customer come to us and told that they have prepared a checklist, they have prepared a document. Okay, and that document has to be sent to the manager before the manager approves it, and after that manager can when the manager is about to approve, manager can see that notification, sorry, that document. What this is the checklist which he has to perform after the termination is been done. Then manager can able to approve it. Okay, so what we have done, we have a configuration tool that is called as a document generation tool. So with the help of a document generation tool, we have created the custom workflow email what you call configuration, that is a template, and we after creating it we added those template here, and we get this option here, and whenever we are creating a workflow, whoever is the approver, for that approval, if the custom template has to be sent, because we have to give the checklist. This is the checklist, means handing over the process of the laptop, handing over the process of the stationaries. Okay, all these are mentioned in the checklist. So that will be sent to the manager when the manager receives a notification for the work. So manager will see that checklist before approving that action of termination. So in that case, if we are keeping it blank, it will be sent as a standard template. If you are selecting from the drop down, it will be sent as the custom email template. Okay, is it clear? Okay, so then that is only applicable when you want to create a custom email template. Okay,
But
as a part of
even
workflow.
even though the default one also, where can we see?
Default one is been the standard one.
Okay.
Is the standard one. So if they want to have a separate one where which has to be sent from the HR admin side, so they can able to use and create this custom template.
My question is, where can we see that standard, the template you're saying? I mean, if we can see it in SF system,
Yeah,
will
in
be.
the SS system only, in the SuccessFactors system only, we have another configuration tool. What you are saying, the standard one
Yeah,
or the custom?
the
Standard
standard.
one we can see in the you have the email template notification, which I just shown you in the introduction to mastery. Do you
Okay.
remember that?
Yes, yes. Some default. You said, dear user, something. Yeah, yeah. I think I
Yes,
remember.
yes,
Yes, yes. Okay, okay.
yes, yes. So if customer don't want to utilize that one, they want to have a separate one, they can use the document generation tool.
Okay, fine.
Okay. So that is one thing which, but if you want to have the custom one, first we have to configure it and we have to do the mapping, then only it will be showing in the workflow email configuration drop down list.
Okay.
Okay, so now it is showing something as a maternity leave, which is a custom one, which somebody has created. So that is the thing it is showing here. Okay, so if you're keeping it blank means whatever is the standard one that will be sent. Okay.
Okay.
So while setting up the workflow, these are the important what you call headings which we need to focus. Approver type and the approver role is the mandatory one where we need to go and select. We have seen the role, the dynamic group, the dynamic role, how it will there. So if you have a proper understanding as a support consultant also, there are some requirements which comes where the workflow is not getting triggered to a particular user. Why that user is not getting the notification? So to investigate, first of all, what is the workflow, how the workflow is being configured, what are the types, approval types which is being taken, go into the approval type, is the user is a part of that approval type or not. That we can only check if we have a proper understanding of all the approval types, how and where it is been configured. Okay, so now we have seen for the dynamic group, for the dynamic role, for the role. Okay, so even for the role also, if the if the user is not getting the notification, we need to check the proper email ID is valid or not, employee is active or not. Okay, that is one thing. Okay, if it is a part of, if it is a dynamic group, then we need to check that user is a part of dynamic group or not. Okay, if it is a dynamic role, we need to check that user under the dynamic role, what is the approver type. Is that approver type, the user is mapped to that approver type under the dynamic role or not. So that will help us to go for the investigation and to explain to the customer that this is the reason why the workflow is not being triggered for that particular user, for the approver. Okay, so this is about the high level explanation which we have gone in the today's session. So similarly, when I go into this, all we have done for the approver. Okay. Now when we go into the contributor also, although we can see in a real time, the approver sections will be there and the CC role will be there. They will always keep the contributor part. They are not keeping the contributor. But in the contributor, what are the additional part which we can see? The person. Okay. Role, dynamic group, position, all these things are coming from the approver only. But the new one is the person. Okay. So if contributor, if you can specify any somebody as a person, we can able to select that person from the list here. Okay, from the list here. Okay, that is possible, and that is coming under the contributor. If we are going into the CC role, okay, now in the CC role, when you go and see role, dynamic group, person will be there, position X, and additionally we can see external email is there. Okay, so when you click on external email, means somebody you want to include in the CC role, which is outside the SuccessFactors system. So that also it is possible when you want to include somebody with the help of an external email. Okay, that is also possible. Okay, so this is the basic understanding and the difference between the approver, contributor, and the CC role. Okay.